I'm Susan Hartenhoff Haygood. I grew up in Sioux Falls, South Dakota. Got all my education in South Dakota, and my parents were artists. My grandmother was an artist, so art's been in the family for a long time. I wanted to be an artist since I was 10, and what's fascinated me the most is that just being in South Dakota and the environment and the emotions that I can get by just standing outdoors. That there's a relationship that you get with the land and even with the wind and and the cats. And I have to portray that in my artwork, the things that I know, the things that I love. So this is a house that I pass every day on the way to work, on the way to my gallery, the way to my studio. And it's an old house. I think it could be one of the Sears Roebuck houses if you buy in the catalog. I've always found it fascinating just sitting there so stoically with the prairie coming up behind it. So I had to paint it. One of the things that is common in South Dakota are, especially out on the farms, are cats. You keep down the mice population, and I am a cat lover. I'm assuming that they were mowing and a piece of the concrete had fallen off, which I'd fixed, and they'd stuck it up on the stoop, on the porch, and I thought that's a perfect place to put a cat. And so it's very subtle, you know. I kept it pretty close to the color of the concrete. I'm a tulip fan, and it reminds me of my father. So they had something growing there, and they looked like flowers, but I made them into tulips to represent my dad. A little piece of my dad in there. So I started doing some research on it. This is Grandma Risty's house. At least that's what the name is. Grandma Risty is long gone. Part of the inspiration is you've got all this nature around it and all these straight lines of the house, the architecture of the house, and the strength of the shadows. The first thing I do is I coat the canvas with a burnt sienna, because it's really hard to paint directly on white and establish all your values correctly. So if you look very closely at the background of the painting, you're going to see it in little spots. You're going to see some of that background color coming through, little peaks of rust that look like they're coming out of the clouds. And once that's dry, because I paint in oil, so you're going to let everything set up, I drew the image on with a pencil. On this particular canvas, which is a beautiful Russian linen, I used a very dry brush, and a dry brush means there's not a lot of medium in it, and the paint is very stiff. And I drug it across the canvas so it would pick up the textures of the canvas. You can see all the different marks and things in it. And little tiny specks of colors in all the layers coming through. Then I had to come in and with the fine brush put in all the details, which is pretty hard to do with that textured canvas. So you have to fight back and forth and get it to work. So the canvas that I used here it's a Russian canvas, Ukrainian actually. It's about 20 years old. I bought it about 20 years ago. And I love painting on it. It's got a wonderful bounce, and it's very tight. You can hear it, it's drum tight. But look at the way they stapled this thing. The raw edges of the canvas were turned and stapled underneath to keep them from fraying. So it's got 2 rows of staples in it. And then it's triple gessoed in an oil-based gesso. And that was done after the fact, otherwise the gesso would have worked all the way around. What's nice about having it gessoed before, or after it's stretched, is that the canvas isn't cracked by stretching it. So it really keeps the integrity of the canvas. And they also, I can tell at the top, they also did a hide glue underneath the gesso, which is totally the proper way to do it. So it's just a magnificently made canvas. It's very hard to find anything with this kind of quality and workmanship to it anymore. unless you make it yourself, and I can't do that anymore. It's impossible.